Hello, everyone. I'm Ravi Ramamurti, Professor of International Business and Strategy at the Damore School of Business and Director of the Center for Emerging Markets. Very pleased to have all of you today for this summit, the second summit in our India Summit series. We began last year with a summit to commemorate the 75th anniversary of India's independence. And the theme last year was Innovation, US-India Partnership for Innovation. And this year, our theme is India the next startup nation? So before I start, I want to recognize my colleague, Venkat Kuppaswamy, who has been my partner in this crime, if you will. He's a professor of entrepreneurship and innovation here at the Damore School of Business. This year's summit builds on last year's summit. The theme continues to be innovation. And as you know, startups are a very important element in the innovation process. And India is showing great vibrancy these days in terms of being a location for startups. I also want to welcome our online viewers who will be joining us in the course of the day. I'm sure some of them are already here. Thank you all for joining. And if you have any questions, please post them to chat, and we will try to pick them up as we go along in the various sessions. This summit is part of the Vivek and Vandana Sharma initiative at the Center for Emerging Markets, made possible by Vivek and Vandana Sharma. Vivek Sharma is here. Thank you, Vivek, for making this summit possible. I'll have a bit more to say about the plan for the day, but first we want to welcome the Consul General of India of New York to say a few words of welcome to everyone and inaugurate today's summit. Before that, I just want to mention that Consul General Randhir Jaiswal, who is now in his fourth year in New York, I believe, has been a great friend of the center and has been helping us every step of the way. 2.5 years ago, when we launched the Vivek and Vandana Sharma initiative, he was the guest of honor and participated in that event. Last year's summit was done jointly with the Consul General of New York, and Consul General Jaiswal was extremely helpful in introducing us to various people. He spent the whole day with us last year, and he has promised that going forward, we will continue to work together with his office and also to stay in touch with him personally. He was also instrumental in helping us bring the Indian ambassador to the US to visit the Center for Emerging Markets and have a session with a cross-section of faculty and executives. So, Consul General Jaiswal, thank you so much for your support. Welcome. And over to you for a few words of encouragement.
Are you inviting me to speak?
Yes, Consul General, I introduced you. In a nutshell, what I said was that you've been a great friend of the Center for Emerging Markets and Northeastern University over the years at various stages, including when we launched the Vivek and Vandana Sharma initiative 2.5 years back. You came to the event and supported us extensively in the summit last year. And you also were helped bring the ambassador to visit the campus and visit the center, and we appreciate all that, and thank you for all your support. And now we look for some encouragement from you as we start this session on Startup India.
Thank you. Good morning, dear friends. Good evening, those joining from India or elsewhere. A very warm namaste to all of you from the Indian Consulate in New York. My greetings to you. First of all, thank you to Professor Ravi Ramamurti, Center for Emerging Markets, and Northeastern University for hosting this summit, this conversation on Startup Nation India. Last year, I remember we had celebrated India at 75 together, 75 years of India's nation making with a conference on innovation at the center. And that time I was there in person. This time again, I wanted to be there in person. But we have a very important delegation visiting us here in New York, and that keeps me away. But, we truly appreciate your efforts to bring the startups in this country and startups in India, that conversation together. We have a number of Indian startups, our flag bearers, our torch bearers, participating in this conversation. The best of Indian startups are here from Snapdeal, Paytm, Bloom, Skyroots, and others. We had a Prime Minister visiting New York and Washington, D.C. in June this year. This was a historic state visit. And as part of the state visit, both India and the United States have drawn a very rich 21st century agenda. We have undertaken some seminal agreements to move forward in the area of defense, collaborate in the area of critical minerals partnership, space exploration. We have together signed Artemis Accord. We are together doing cloud computing, advanced computing, several new technologies, defense partnership, clean energy partnership, and much more. Now, if we want to put this rich agenda that we have drawn for ourselves on wheels and in action, we have to get the startups together. Startups bring their own value, their own ideas in putting things into action. Therefore, this conversation is so very important for an agenda which is going to define the 21st century pathway, not just for India and the United States, but for the world at large. For our knowledge economy, for our digital economy, this conversation is very important. And as we have this conversation, we have to get three strategies right. A strategy on what sort of innovation we are doing. Two, what sort of green pathway we are going to adopt. And third, what sort of digital engagement we have. If we get these three things together in our startup conversation, I think India and the United States is what is being touted as the defining partnership of the 21st century will be in motion, will be in action. I also want to take 2 minutes of your time to say Indian startup ecosystem in India is booming, it is vibrant, it's dynamic, but there are other enablers which are pushing it, which are propelling it. We have a high growth economy right now, the fastest growing major economy in the world. We have a strong reform agenda. And as a result of the reform agenda, today we have Skyroutes Aerospace participating here. They built the first privately built rocket in India. That was a historic occasion for India that we were able to put our first privately built rocket in space some time back. India today happens to be the country with the largest population in the world. So you can imagine the kind of demand that is there, the kind of market and consumption that is there, which awaits international investors and startups across the world who are looking at innovative solutions to several of things that bog us down or challenges that we face. And then the digital public infrastructure growth in India is making global headlines, is part of global conversation today. And as a result of that, we have been able to deliver services in India at a faster pace, more efficient manner, and that has transformed how we deal with public services for people at large. The infrastructure space, again, we have so many stories to tell, successful stories to tell, from PM Gati Shakti program to our renewable energy strategy. By 2030, we have a target to meet 50% of our energy needs from renewable sources. But my sense is that if we get all the green hydrogen piece, etc., in place, we'll be meeting upwards of 65% of our energy needs from renewable sources by 2030. Then, of course, we have very strong and dynamic leadership by our Prime Minister. He's committed to bringing in more reforms, more growth, doing more on climate change action, and taking the country forward. So whatever you see in India today is happening at speed and happening at scale. So in this environment, I think to get India and the United States together to have a conversation on startups is going to make a heavy impact on a bilateral agenda. And to do that, we want to have institutional anchors. So therefore, this conversation in Northeastern University is that much more important for us. And we hope that this becomes an annual affair and we can do more between institutions in India and Northeastern universities and several other universities here in the United States. The Consulate stands ready to support all such ventures, and we partner in this exercise. We recently signed an agreement with RI Hub, Rhode Island Hub, which is very close to Boston, and Invest India as to how we can incubate together, how our startups can participate together. So I really look forward to this conversation and wish this engagement my very best. I hope the deliberations will be fruitful and we can come up with new ideas and new collaborations between young, smart entrepreneurs, between people who have ideas, people who want to innovate and create new solutions for the world at large. Thank you very much for your gracious invitation. All the very best for this conversation and for this summit. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you, Consul General Jaiswal, for giving us this overview of what's happening in India. It's a wonderful way of introducing the entire program, and thank you for all the support you have given and that we look forward to receiving in the future.